Welcome to another episode of DIY Meta Ads, Meta being Facebook and Instagram under their new branding. Well, not so much new anymore, it's been out for a couple of years. And today we're continuing in our series of DIYing Meta Ads, as I said, and we're going to look today specifically at creating audiences. We have done a little bit of this, touched on this a little bit in the last few weeks. Because everything in Meta, when you're building something in Meta, everything together, it's intermeshed. Like you don't, do the copy and the creative and the headlines and the targeting, and then do the audiences. You're doing a bit of everything at once. So it's very hard to put just DIYing Meta ads into one section at a time. So if you go over my previous videos, if you're new to the channel, and remember to like, subscribe, and hit the notifications button if you don't mind. If you want to go to my previous videos, you'll see that I have touched on audiences on a number of occasions throughout the videos, particularly last week when I did the section on retargeting. There's a fair bit of audience creation in retargeting. But today I'm going to look more specifically at audiences. So I'm just going to share screen, and I'm going to share this one. I think I've got it worked out now. Yes, I have. Took me a while. So here's my dummy account, and this is on the campaign section. As you can see here, the campaigns, and this is where I've just been, playing around with various things that we've been doing as we've been doing this series. So to actually look at the audiences, where the audiences get driven from is two places. Firstly, if you go into any campaign and you go into the ad set level, which is the second level. So you could also have gone from here where I went from and edit, or you can go into the ad set and you can edit there. It's going to take you to all the same place. But we're looking at the ad set level and the ad set settings. So I'm just going to make this a bit bigger so you can see it. That looks a little better. So when we talk about audiences, we're talking about who do you want this ad to be sent to. There is absolutely no 100% guarantee that is the only people that will see your ad, but it is a way of dictating to Meta. So whether it's an Instagram ad or whether it's a Facebook ad, these are the sort of people I think, setting up this ad, these are the sort of people I think will be interested in this content. Now, there's this huge debate going on at the moment where, particularly since iOS 14 changes came in, there was a move to not do any of this, to set the audience as for anything, no matter what you were selling. So maybe you were even selling incontinence pads to, older people, to do nothing but leave it at default, which was the location being anywhere in the world, the age being 18 to 65, and it being males and females, and not do any of these other settings. Don't worry about interests and behaviors, don't worry about languages, don't worry about countries, don't worry about age. Now, I have been doing Meta ads, Facebook ads, since they started back whenever that was, at least a decade ago. And what we used to have in the early days, we didn't have anywhere near this amount of targeting, anywhere this amount of audience setting. If you go onto things like boosted posts and go onto the settings that we had there, that's what the back end of even the paid ads looked like way back when. We had very, very limited ability to say who we wanted these ads to get to. And over time, that became more and more and more sophisticated. Even things like this demographics, interest and behavior, if I just click on there, let's say I'm going to say pets. And it's going to bring me up a whole section of, what it suggests maybe as the targeting behind the scene should be. Happy Pets is a video game, Pet Lovers website, The Sims, Wonder Pet, Pillow Pet, Pet Corner, Pets at Home Pet Supplies, Pet Smart being the business, Pet Stock being another business. I'm here in Australia, so these are Australian business names. The Secret Life of Pets, and these interests and behaviours sitting behind the scenes. I'm just trying to see if I can find you some behaviours. It's my dog's barking in the background. They have varied over time. They used to be much broader. Hang on a second. Callie, come here, please. Come on, good girl. Come on, good girl. Come on. Want to be a part of this? Come on. Come here. Come here. Come sit with me. Good girl. Good girl. Thank you. Sorry about that. Now Callie's sitting here with me, not barking at next door's tractor. They've come and gone with these interests and behaviours. We saw a lot of interests and behaviours being added. So an interest being what someone might be interested in, a behaviour being something like, where they might work. So we could have pet groomers, a job. We can't do groomers now, obviously. Yeah, there it is. So we have we have demographics, we have their education, their financial. So these are their behaviours. What education level have they gone to? What fields of study have they done? What schools did they go to? What undergraduate years do they get to? Things like financial. What is their income level? Now, these change all the time. Every 5 minutes, we think, okay, well, I'll use a demographic or an interest or a behaviour I used last time, and it's gone, or it's been replaced by something different. So we don't get used to these. They come and go with regularity. Life events. Have they had an anniversary? Have they just given birth? Have they not just given birth? Are they away from family? Again, this has changed quite considerably. So anniversary within the last 30 days, birthday. It looks like I think all the pregnancy ones have gone. Friends of, are they in a new job? Are they in a new relationship? Are they newly engaged? They don't. Looks like they have taken the all parents. The new parents is there. It literally comes and goes all the time. So when we're looking to build an audience with these demographics, these detailed demographics, these detailed interests and behaviours, we basically sit here and say, right, well, what results is it going to give us? I'm just going to try and show you so as we pick on, let's say we're going to pick on, and these aren't going to make sense. So let's say I'm going to pick on, nope, I'm on the wrong screen. Parents, all parents. Let's say I want all parents who went to an education level of, college grad. You can select multiples. It doesn't need to be just one. And let's say I want them to have an income of the top 10% of zip codes in the US. As I'm building and selecting these, it's going to be adding them up to, hang on, I'm just going to make that smaller for the moment because I just can't see what I'm doing. It's going to be adding them up to, it's going to be adding them here into the list above. And it's going to be giving me an estimated audience size, which is that one over there, which is between 8 million to 9.5 million. I'll just make that a bit bigger so you can see. So 8 million to 9.5 million. So the question here is, do I still believe that we should be targeting everybody, or should we still be using the demographics, the interests, the behaviours, creating a custom audience behind here? And in my opinion, it depends. I do like to sit on fences. Not that I'm any good at it anymore at my age. And see, as you can see, each of these individual audiences are telling me what size they were. Size of the audience is now shown as a range. These numbers may change over time. Facebook love putting those things in there. It comes back to the strategy of when I'm building an ad campaign, what strategy am I thinking about using? As I say, if I'm going to sell something that's an incontinence product to a 60 plus age group, or incontinence could also be to women who are pregnant, or women who've had lots of kids, even though they're less than 60, I'm going to think about what my targeting will be. I'm not going to sell products like that. I'm not going to make Facebook the ads go to 18-year-old females or even 18-year-old men. It's just ridiculous. Not unless I want to spend a lot of money that I'm not going to get any results for. I think I'm a cynic. At times, Facebook suggests things to us that really are designed to just make them more money, and they really don't care whether it makes us better results or not. So what I tend to do now is I sit and think, okay, so what's my product? What's the target audience going to be for my product? And should I be very broad or not so broad, or very, very narrow? I mean, I've done some work where I've actually targeted job categories for some Australian government departments. And they've been really very selective. I can't say who or what, but they've been very selective. For those, the targeting has been very, very, very narrow, even during our iOS 14. And I've had good results. If you're uncertain, then what you do is you set up an ad set that is very broad. Let's say you don't know what's going to happen. It's something that's sitting between broad and not so broad. So set one up that is nothing other than location. Location, I reckon you'll always, particularly because I'm in Australia, my location is always going to be set to a country. In the US, then that might be a bit different. So let's say I'm always going to, I can actually remove these. Let's say I have set one of those up, and actually before I do that, I can save this audience, and I'm going to call it whatever, audience A. I usually do something more descriptive than that, and it'll tell me, who is it. I'll come back to advanced detailed targeting in a minute. I cancel because I don't actually want to save it. So I can, and that will allow me to then use that audience later on. It'll go and sit in a section we're going to go look at in a minute. It will go sit and save that audience behind the scenes and allow you to not have to go through all of this ever again. I always forget which ones I've selected here, because you'll sort of sit there and think, oh, yeah, that's not bad. Oh, look, there's one I didn't see before. So, this would be the super broad, and so the estimated size of that is 17.9 million to 21 million, and that's just in Australia. What I've also got to remember is, do I have an ads budget to go to 17.9 million to 21 million? If I'm still at testing level and it's very new and I'm testing $10 per ad set per day, it's just going to be a drop of the ocean when you're talking about the 17.9 versus 21. So we're back to testing. I'll set up an ad set that is very broad. I'll set up one ad set with a certain criteria of audiences in it, and then I'll set up another ad set that might have a slightly different criteria of audiences of people in it. And I will generally test around about 3 to 4 audiences per campaign. And when I'm testing those audiences, I'm using exactly the same copy, creative, and headlines. Go back to the very earlier videos where you'll see how I set those up. Exactly the same copy, creative, and headlines. So the only changed variable in that setup is the audience it's going to. And I'm able to compare like with like. So if I went to a very broad audience with this copy, creative, and headline, then I had another ad set that went to a selected audience, an audience where I'd grab some of these criteria, same copy, creative, and headlines. I'm able to say, well, the only difference between those two ad sets is the audience. So a broad audience might work really well. Okay, well, that's what I'm going to keep going with, and I'm going to kill the other one off. I might find that it's the more specific audience that works well, or I might find I've tried 3 or 4 different specific audiences and some work better than others. That's what your testing in the early days is all about. So that's where you set it in the ad section. I'll come back to these advantage placements. That one that came up when I just tried to do the save is about this here. advantage detail targeting, and they've changed the wording on this fairly recently. So what can happen is that you'll set this up as the audience, and the algorithm behind the scenes will send the ads out to people who are almost the same as those criteria. It taps into the algorithm that says, if you think Facebook, there is some, of Instagram, Meta, there's someone better out there that this should go to, even though they might have a demographic or an interest or behavior that's not stipulated by me when I've set it up, then do it. And whoops, you can, tick that. It doesn't change the audience size significantly. And when you've got a very, 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 very broad audience, it won't make much difference because it basically goes out to everyone. You only really do that when you're selecting the demographics and things like interests and behaviors like I did before. It's gone now. There was something I was going to say. It's gone now. What we tend to do when we're first setting up ads is we start very broad. We start way out there because we don't want to think a big thing I see, and I'm guilty of it myself at times, a big thing is going in as a marketer and saying, well, this must work with, person A, B, C, and D type. At that age, living in that place, that's wrong. I need to trust in the AI machine that is behind Meta and Google nowadays, and trust that it knows and has the ability to crunch information much better than I could. So I always tend to stay fairly broad, but not that broad that it's 18 to 65, anybody living in Australia, males and females. It doesn't handle the non-binary terribly well anymore. I think, let me just see gender. I think no, it's all men and all women. So it's typical Facebook. It doesn't believe in non-binary. It's only going to come up. You either have to be a male, or you have to be a woman, or you have to not stipulate. So that's where we set it. Let's get out of that. The way to see what audiences are around is to go into here. So where it's been set out there, when it said save, it didn't save back because I wouldn't let it. But when it goes save, it goes back into here. That's I'm on the right account. So this is, as you can see, I'm really clever about the naming of audiences sometimes. It is good when you're doing this for real to have a name that is meaningful. It'll come into here and it will sit it here. So audience 2, location Australia. Hang on, no, it was this one. Audience 2, location Australia, interests. At some stage, I'd pick these interests and I'd set 18 to 65, and it was probably males and females. If it's below, and here I need to make it smaller again. If the audience is below, if the audience is too small, then it's just going to say below 1,000. Below 1,000. It won't give us any numbers less than 1,000. It won't say your audience is 3 people, or your audience is 10 people, or your audience is 999. You can tell from the back here where it's been used. So this audience hasn't been used on a campaign yet. And it can tell me there's no activity details because it's not been used. But it can tell me the dates to view any activity in these audiences, the name, the date, the time, various other information. To be honest, I've never used expiring audiences. If an audience hasn't been used in an active ad set for over 2 years, it will begin to expire. Expiring audiences that remain unused for 90 days will be deleted. So, I mean, obviously, the amount of information being set up here on the back end of Facebook, they've got to start to cull stuff at some point. Because there's just, they do it with pages, they do it with ad accounts, they do it with business managers. They can't store all of this material. Billions of people over the world using Facebook every day. They can't store everything forever. But we can see which ads are used where, which active, and I'll come back to this, shared, what type of audiences they are, custom, lookalike, saved. I'll go into that in a minute. And what's ready, what's not ready, what has an error. What comes from what sources. So that's if you're creating an audience via the ad set, where we're utilizing just the information that's sitting behind the back end of Facebook. We can also create audiences, and I'll just get rid of that and that. What else did I ticked? So that's ticked automatically. The other way we can create audiences, and if you really want to see this in detail and where it's used, I suggest you go to last week's video, which was about retargeting. But we can create either lookalike audiences or custom audience. So what's the difference? Saved audience is the one we were just in. So a custom audience is connect with people who have already shown. I need to make that bigger for you again. A custom audience is to connect with the people who've already shown an interest in your business or product. You can create an audience from customer contacts, website traffic, or a mobile app, or a couple of other things that are not written there as well. So these are people who've already interacted with you in some way, shape, or form. A great thing we use this for is if we're running a Shopify store and you've got a list of people who've bought products from you, you can create a list of those people. It's generally via name and email address. And you put that in as an audience here behind the back end of Facebook, Meta. And Meta will try and match up those names and those email addresses with varying success, because we find a lot of people, and I still see it all the time, a lot of people use a different name on Facebook. There's still a lot of fake names getting around on Facebook, and they're often using different email addresses, a Shopify email address or an e-commerce email address that they've given you for purchase of a product. It's often going to be a more real email address. Like I have an email address that I've been using for the last 20 years for newsletters and rubbish. I won't put that when I'm purchasing, because I want to see an email come out that says, the product you've purchased isn't available, or it's going to be shipped at this date, or whatever that looks like. You'll still see a lot of Hotmails and really generic what I call throwaway email addresses used on Facebook. So for them to link a custom audience, it's not bad, but it's a bit hit and miss. Your source could be your website, it could be app activity, it could be a catalog, it could be a customer list, it could be offline activity. To be honest, I've never used it. There's got to be an offline event setup. It can be a meta source from like a video that you've used. So it can be on or offline, on or off Meta audiences. So it can be a video that you've used in one of your other ads. And I talked a lot more about all of these in the retargeting. This is all very much retargeting stuff. And I talked a lot more about that last week. So it can be a video. If we want it to be a video, it's going to ask me how many seconds of the video did they watch, or did they watch 25, 50, 75, 95? Let's say 3 seconds, and it's going to ask me which videos am I talking about. Am I talking about, what videos I've used where? So is it, which of these? And it's going to pick up videos that I put up. See, this video wasn't used in an ad set. This video was used on the page. So this is the Pet Care Magic page, and these were reels that I posted the other day. So it's going to pick up videos that were put up wherever, which is really handy. If you've had a video that you've put up on your page, Facebook page, or this is only going to target videos on the Facebook page. If you put up on your Facebook page and it's got a lot of engagements, well, then go and put some money behind that. Go and take that into a paid ad, because we know that people, really, really like it. So that's where it becomes very powerful. So we don't want to select those videos, so we'll get out of it. And over what period? People who viewed at least 3 seconds of the videos videos I've chosen. And since when? Since the last 3 days, the last 5 days, the last 365 days. Give it a name, give it a description, blah, 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 blah. Give it a description if you want. I must admit I don't use descriptions very often. And create audience. It's grayed out because I didn't actually choose the video. So if I chose one of these videos, confirm, now it will create the audience. So I can either create this through here. I can't create this. I can't create a custom and a lookalike audience through the ad set. I can only do demographics broad through the ad set. So the others are all done here through the, and it was, remember, it was up here in the all tools. We went to the audiences. That's the ads manager where we were. There's the audiences. The other thing that you can do up here is you can create a lookalike audience. Now, lookalike audiences are very powerful, and I really like lookalike audiences because what they do is they say to the algorithm, go out and find everybody that you think looks like criteria A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, or whatever however many you've put into them. You can select either existing pixel data. So you can select the, it doesn't have the right pixel data coming up here, which is what stopped me. You can pick all sorts of different sources. You can pick the pixel, so that's obviously off Facebook, or you can create a new source. So this is where Facebook, I believe, is so powerful. You can then say it's only in these regions. I mean, obviously, you don't want to say to Facebook, go to the entire world and find, everybody that looks like this. You got to be really careful with regions and countries, because what you don't want to do is push the algorithm into going and finding you audiences in countries that have no possibility of ever being able to buy from you. Either that's because you don't service those countries, or because they're let's say you're an English speaking business, and the number of English speaking businesses in the English speaking people in those those certain countries are is like less than 0.00001%, or the poverty level of that country is so bad. Like, who would be sending ads to parts of Turkey and Syria right now at the moment after the earthquakes? So be really careful about what you ask the algorithm to do, because it doesn't have the mental capacity to sit and say, but hang on, this is an Australian business or a US business and they're selling blah, 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 and blah. They wouldn't possibly be their target audience, because they don't have enough money, or they don't speak English, or whatever that looks like. We've seen over the years, a lot of failed targeting go on, because there was a period, I see it less now, thank God, but we went through a period where there was people saying, people who should know better, saying set up a page or an ad account and just go out there and target India or Pakistan or all these weird and wonderful places and get social proof on your ads. You would get social proof, but the trouble is, what you also told the algorithm was they were your target clients and they were the countries they were in. I'd see page after page after page that would have massive numbers of likes, but they were all the wrong likes. I remember an e-commerce account I did an audit on. I'm going back quite a few years now, back when this was, the thing that was said. And he had, I think, about 700 likes on his page. 700 doesn't sound like much now, but in the numbers we've got now. But and so he had a Shopify. He had a Shopify. Yes, I think it was a Shopify store. No, could have been a WooCommerce. I can't remember. But anyway, he had a store, and it was clothing and jewelry. It was fairly broad, and he was spending like $1,000 a day on ads and getting absolute crickets. He was getting plenty of impressions, and when I sort of started to track through all the data, a lot of the data had been relying on what was behind the Facebook page. Even if you set a broad audience like 18 to 65, all sexes, males and females in all of Australia, there is still going to be an impact of the algorithm knowing who your likers are on your page or your Facebook page or your Instagram account. And it is going to factor some of that in. So be really careful. Be really specific about the likers and the followers you've got are people that you potentially could be selling products to. You'll still see it. You still see it around all the groups. You've got people, I started a new Facebook page. Can I have some likers, please? And what they're doing is they're talking to people that won't ever buy from them. That's a really, really bad mistake. So as I say, this sending stuff out to what we call cheap countries, you can get clicks for 0.05 cents. And that's not 5 cents. That's 0.05 of a cent. You can still get it, but the thing is you don't want it because you're going to teach this algorithm stuff that you don't need to teach it. So create the lookalike audience, search for regions of countries. The lookalike audience has, so let's say it's Australia. Let's say it's everybody that interacted with my website. Oops. Didn't like that. Yeah, I was thinking. This picks all website visitors over the last few days. Maybe I wanted to exclude visitors, like exclude people that brought in the last 5 days. Give it a name, give it a description, save it. It can any, all. There's a lot of conditional logic that goes on here. I can have website visitors. I can have people who visited specific pages. So as I said before, some of this falls down into retargeting. Some of this we will do as our testing. We tend not to test this in the first few days. This is more middle of funnel, not very top of funnel building audience stuff. This is where it does come down into retargeting, particularly this lookalike stuff. But you could do lookalike top of funnel. You could say, let's say I'm here in Australia and let's say my Pet Care Magic that's been going out to Australian audiences and maybe I now want to expand into the US. I could say, right, Facebook, here's the Australian audience I've been building, and I could create a lookalike that says, now go find all of those people in the US. Very, very powerful stuff. Very powerful stuff. So having created all these here now, if I go back to the Ads Manager, go back to the campaigns, go back into the ad sets. So I could have got it from campaigns, or I could have got it from ad sets, but I'll go into the ad sets. And so where I've created a new audience, that's where we were before when I was talking about behaviors, interests, and demographics. Or I've now got this saved audience section. As you can see, it's picking up the audiences that a few minutes ago I was looking at in that up here, in here. That makes sense? In there. The thing about most software nowadays is there's always a million ways to get to the same thing, which is really great, but can also be really confusing. And sometimes you will find that it can be a bit thingy about picking up some of this stuff behind. So if you've set up a new audience behind the scenes and you skip straight back up here, particularly if you're using the back browser button, you come straight back up here into the Ads Manager, it's often a good idea to refresh the screen because it refreshes what is there behind the cache. Or occasionally it doesn't like picking up things. This doesn't have a whole lot of audiences set up. And let me just swap to one that I'll show you. You can do custom audiences and lookalike audience from out here as well. I'm a creature of habit. I tend to go to the audience section, but you can do it from out here as well. So just let me show you one that has got this is a saved audience. This has got a lot more saved audiences. And just occasionally I find it won't pick up. This is a bit of a limited drop down that you get here. So just occasionally I think, I know I've got an audience called ABC widgets behind. If you type ABC widgets up here, it will pick that audience up for you. It's just a little glitch that I noticed. The other thing I wanted to show you is when you are doing lookalike audiences, you can do the degree of likedness or the degree of how much it looks like. So if you've got so 1%, so it's 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 10%. A 1% lookalike consists of the accounts, so the Facebook profiles, most similar to your lookalike source. Increasing the percentage gives a bigger, broader audience. So those are the ones that are most similar to the criteria you've selected. These are still similar, but not quite as similar. And sometimes we play around with testing 1% versus 3% versus 6%. I've never tried 10%. How much budget have you got? If you've got plenty of budget, then go play with this. Most people don't. And I mean, I tend to sit around here, the 4%, 2-3%, unless I'm getting a result that is just not really giving me enough of the result that I want. And I think, okay, well, let's go play with a few others and see what happens. Paid ads is very much about testing, particularly in the meta world. It's very much about testing. It's like, let's throw stuff at a wall and see what sticks. Even when you know what you're doing. If you've got someone that comes in here and says, I know what I'm doing, and we always do just this, and this, then run fast because they're wrong. The environment here is changing so much. Facebook are doing, or Meta are doing things behind the scenes. We need to go back to some degree of testing in every ad account. So if I'm doing an ad account for let's say pet leads and collars for one e-commerce store, and I'm getting a certain degree of results, and then another e-commerce store in the pet area comes in and says, right, we want to sell leads and collars because you've been getting really good results for, this other store. The answer is I can't guarantee those results for you because it depends on what data is behind your ad account. It depends on what your website converts like. It depends on who your audiences are. It depends on so many different factors. And that's why I always laugh when people say, so I'm only going to hire you if you can show me the results you got from, someone in exactly my industry. Well, it's not it's got some degree of relevancy, but not a lot. Because still at the end of the day, we have to let's go back to testing. Let's finding out what's working. Let's find out what's going to work for you in your situation. There is no set and forget with Facebook ads. Unfortunately, I wish there was. What else can I tell you about audiences? And then, of course, once we've created the audiences, the thing there is looking at the results. I don't know what I was going to show you. The number of audiences I've got set up for Pet Care Magic. And you'll often have a lot of audiences set up. So I've got lookalikes, Canada, US, 10%. I said I never used it. Sometimes I do. I was playing around with it. And that was 25.5 million to 30 million because it was Canada and the US at 10%. Australia, New Zealand at 10%. It was 2.2 million to 2.6. A lookalike for the first one was Facebook page visited. That's the Pet Care Magic page. This one is the Facebook page KR Cavoodles engaged as distinct from visitors. So there's so many variables in all this, and it's pretty easy to get a bit lost in the detail. This is why naming things is very, very, very important. I mean, you can still go on this and find out what the audience was. This was actually set up in another ad account, which is why it won't actually allow me to edit it out here. So audiences, while I'm on that, let's say I've set up some really good audiences in a different ad account that I know are really good, and I just want to, not circumvent the wheel, or I want to try to tap into that data. Then I can go into that other ad account and I can share that audience with the different with the the new ad account I want to use it in. And that's exactly what I did. KR Cavoodles is a different ad account. It's in the same business manager, but it's a different ad account. And at that stage, Pet Care Magic, as the page wasn't set up, so I shared that audience across with the main account. So shared, no, it was in the main account, which is because I've got a number of business managers, obviously. I'll just show you. So I've got a lot of business managers, various business managers, and then various ad accounts within the various business managers. So I went across to where I'd used it before, and I shared it across to. Didn't want to go there. I shared it across to the new ad account. So a lot of the data sits, even the pixel data, the data sits at the ad account level. People say it sits at the pixel. No, it doesn't. The pixel is just a piece of code that says, when this happens, do this. And you put that on your website and you put that in various other places. The data that pixel is then passing then sits at the ad account level. So it's considered ad account A. If you want to use it in ad account B, then you've got to share that data across. But that's a topic for another day. So that's probably all I can really show you for now on creating audiences. There's, again, like always, a fair bit of information there. So I hope you've found that useful. Don't forget to like the video, comment. If you've got any questions, feel free. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification button. I'm tending to go live. It should be on Thursdays. It depends on what's going on. Was it this Thursday and it's now Saturday? At the moment, there's not many people looking at this live, which is fine by me. If people get into a situation where they're more expecting it to be live at a certain time and they want to be interacting live, then that's not a problem. I will be better at going live, and I'll be better at saying it's going to go live at such and such a time, which I can do. So anyway, have a good weekend, everybody, and I'll talk to you soon.